Our next speaker is Rob Beem. He has been a leader in local government and human services for the majority of his career, working in both Bellevue and Shoreline. He currently serves on the board of the North Urban Human Services Alliance. He and the Alliance recognize that our North King County communities like Kenmore and Bothell have very motivated but often untapped local resources, and that human services needs in our communities are not well understood.
Thank you. Do I get a Bill Kerlin 5 minutes? All right. I told him I yield some of my time to him. So I was asked to talk a little bit about what I see from the data side. I work for the City of Shoreline. I'm their human services subject matter expert, so I look at numbers and census data and that sort of thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then some of the experience that we've had in Shoreline in particular, and some of the things that we've tried to do as the Human Service Alliance across this great band of North King County. So 3 things in 4.5 minutes. We'll see if I can get there. A year or so ago, we put together a film called Homeless to House that looked at people in Shoreline and North King County who were homeless. It profiled residents of Tent City, residents of housing authority buildings, people moving to Indiana because that was the place there was affordable housing and family. And when we were done with that, the comment that I got from more than a couple people leaving is, I don't see these people as homeless. I don't recognize them as, and I think one of the particular things about living in the suburbs is, and this has been true for the 30 years of my career in human services, is that one of the things we try and do in the suburbs is blend in. And you blend in with people that are housed and have jobs. And so you don't see need. But what we do know is that in Bothell, since 2000, the poverty rate has gone from 11 to 16%. In Kenmore, from 19 to 23%. And in Woodinville, amazingly, just from 13 to 14%. So that's, more than 1 in 10 of us here. That equates to about 5,500 people in the populations of those cities who are living in poverty. If you're a family, that's $23,000 a year. And rent is often much more than $1,000 a month, and you can work that math. What we know is that in the North Shore schools, students eligible for free and reduced lunch have gone from 7.5% of the population in 2000 to 16% in last year. Homeless, actually, the North Shore and Shoreline school districts have the highest rate of growth of homeless students of King County. So we're now up close to 4% of our students who self-identify as homeless. They're identifying as homeless in a community where being different isn't an easy thing to do. 15 years ago, Shoreline was just barely a suburb at that point. Kenmore, the same. But we didn't know about suburbanization of poverty. We knew we had poor people among us. We had people struggling every day. It was something I think we could deal with a charitable impulse or two. This world and the system is different. Poverty is becoming a way of life for a lot of people that live in communities like North King County. And it's pretty much unrecognized. One of the byproducts of that is that we really are just now developing our systems of support for people. And I say support, it's more than just caring for people. It really is having a community that has institutions, places for people to go during the day, policies that make being someplace during the day acceptable. I think the King County Library system actually has gone through quite an evolution in their thinking about, they really are the third place for a whole lot of people during the day who aren't able to go and buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks or go to Third Place Commons in Lake Forest Park. And they've figured out how to respond to a different population. They still, I think, go with Bill's comment. You always need to be safe and you need to listen. So they're finding ways, but they're finding ways as an institution to do that. And I think that's the kind of thing that we need to think about ourselves doing, is developing those ways for us people of a variety of incomes and a variety of ways to live to exist in the suburbs, and that's calling upon us to build some new ways of thinking and new ways to be in relationship with each other. On the latest one-night count, which I have been out on, I encourage you to do that. I think it's January 23rd next year, or something like that. It's the last Thursday in the month of January. You'll get to go out and see your city at a time that you don't usually see it, 2 to 4 in the morning. I think we counted close to 40 people in North King County, which was an increase. It's not what you have in downtown Seattle, but it is an increase year over year in North King County. And actually, I'm finding, as one of the people that plans that a little bit, I'm finding people starting to tell me, oh, did you look here? Did you look there? There are cars over here. So the pastor talked about homelessness being an issue that people talked about more and more. We're starting to see that in my daily life as a human services planner. Bill talked about the Compass housing that's being built in Shoreline. We're very proud of that. It's a product of both local effort and a regional housing finance system. But I will say it took over 5 years to put that project together, starting with discussions just such as this, that the North Urban Human Service Alliance and others, Bill included, spurred by saying, what are the assets we have in our community and the assets that congregations have? And one of the most valuable things that congregations are able to do is hold land. If you think about the development process for any project, being able to hold a piece of land for 5 years, that's a huge carrying cost. And it really is a big bonus to anybody trying to build housing. Shoreline has been host to a tent city or two, probably continuously, I think for the last 2.5 years now. And years ago, we had some land use planners that didn't know any different, and they came up with some rules and regulations about hosting tent cities that have become a model for communities around King County, some ways to document that the hosting tent city doesn't impact the surrounding neighborhood, some ways to relate to the city and to our police that provide for, a way for people to live in your midst and be supported by your community. So from that standpoint, it is possible. The last thing to leave you with on the data side is looking at the group now. It used to be called the Committee to End Homelessness. Now the effort in King County is called All Home. We're all trying to make that transition, so you need to do both pieces of branding at once. But All Home has data that says over 300 people came into homelessness, if you'll call it that, as part of the formal homeless housing system from the zip codes that include Woodinville, Bothell, and Kenmore in 2014. So it's an issue that is present in these communities, and it's not just your experience, the data shows it, and some people really like to know that the data shows it. So data backs you up in your work you're doing. I would be remiss if I didn't note that this is the eve of Veterans Day, and there's a very large and very successful effort, I think, going on now to focus on veterans homelessness. It's a subset of the population. There is no typical homeless person, right? But homelessness among vets is very high. So my hat is off to you in the audience who are vets and want to just take a pause to think about how effective the efforts can be when you really focus on something and try and attack it, like veterans homelessness. Thank you.
All right, thanks.